Today, we're excited to host this event to dive deeper into one of our Codecademy features on the platform. And we're excited to host this special workshop featuring two of our incredible team members from Codecademy. Everyone, please welcome Joe Holmes and Kat Miner. I'll give intros on them both soon. But today in this session, you're going to discover how AI can simplify complex topics, accelerate your learning, and really enhance your coding experience. Um, Today's workshop is going to be engaging and hands-on, filled with a lot of practical tips and skills. And Joe and Kat will share their knowledge first, and then we'll leave some time at the end for Q&A. So if you have any questions, we just ask that you hold on tight until the very end, and then Joe and Kat will answer any questions that you have there. So I'm going to introduce Joe and Kat, and then I'm going to pass it over to them to let them take the session. Joe has been a machine learning AI curriculum developer at Codecademy since October of 2023. He has made courses on fine-tuning, RAG AI agents, reasoning models, and Claude. Kat has been our associate product designer for 1 year at Codecademy. She works primarily on the learner experience. And this includes experience such as the AI project review, post-quiz review, and onboarding and offboarding from study groups. So we're super excited for everyone here to have a front-facing view of our two incredible team members who have been so crucial in your Codecademy experience. And I'm going to pass it over to Joe, and he is going to take us away. Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you, and thanks for the introduction, Stephanie. So like Stephanie said, my name is Joe Holmes. I've been with Codecademy for about a year and a half now. I love AI, I love machine learning, and I'm really excited to show off some courses that I've worked on, as well as our awesome AI assistant tool. So if you've ever experimented with AI-assisted coding using some kind of chat interface like ChatGPT, you know you're often tabbing back and forth between interfaces, copy and pasting a lot, and often struggling to provide the appropriate context to the chatbot model that you're talking to. So the AI learning assistant is kind of our way of simplifying that process for you and making things easier. So it can keep everything right where you need it and provide the large language model with the necessary context without you needing to copy and paste a bunch or type out these long detailed prompts kind of specifying what it is that you're doing. So the AI assistant can tutor you throughout an entire course. You can get clarification on where your code is wrong, and you can ask follow-up questions for more clarification. It can elaborate and give additional information, although you should verify that information if it goes off of the instruction path. And you can see your exercise and your code reflected in the knowledge of the chatbot. So it has the context kind of already provided to you, which is very useful. So I'm going to show off some of like the basic functionality of the AI learning assistant using a course that I developed. It's called Fine-Tuning Transformers, and it's a course on fine-tuning. And basically what that means, if you're new to the subject, is kind of customizing transformer models. Transformer architectures are the underlying architecture behind large language models like ChatGPT and Claude and so on. So you really get a nice hands-on experience in this course of what it is to sort of train them additionally after they're released to the public and make them more capable at a specific use case. I chose this course to share with you all because it has a big mix of a lot of different modalities, as you'll see. So we have some video units where we work on more conceptual knowledge. We have like a math course that fills in some gaps in math knowledge and helps catch us up on our linear algebra. And then we have some really hands-on coding with Hugging Face libraries and parameter efficient fine-tuning libraries. Um, so hopefully as you look through this course and these lessons, it sparks your curiosity about our more advanced ML offerings. Consumer fine-tuning, which we cover in great detail in this course, makes a lot of interesting sort of hacker experiments possible in the machine learning and AI space. So they're great first projects for someone looking to build out their portfolio and so on. So before we get started, I just want to let you know you do not need to know all of this stuff. If some of the material that you see in these lessons seems like it's totally foreign to you, no worries. It's supposed to be on the intermediate advanced side of things. And then my last warning is you may see me looking away to the left here. I'm not scrolling Facebook. The screen that I'm sharing is my laptop screen on the left-hand side here. So without further ado, I will share my screen. And let me pick out where we're doing that. There we go. All right. So you should be able to see my screen in the Codecademy window now. If you can't, please let me know. But what we're looking at is an exercise from the first lesson in the course, which is all videos that walk you through kind of the conceptual, basic foundational knowledge that you'll need to perform fine tuning. One of those foundational pieces of knowledge is what a graphical processing unit or a GPU is. And we walk through this in great detail. So we give you kind of really hands-on information about what these things look like inside, what various metrics will help you, judge them and figure out which ones are the right choice for your use case and so on. And our first use for the AI learning assistant will be, let's say you made it to about the 2 minute point mark of this video. And as you can see on the screen, there's a lot of complicated looking numbers and acronyms here. So let's say you hit a sticking point and you are wondering what this last bullet in this video means. Multi-headed self-attention architecture makes transformers highly parallelizable. Well, let's say the only thing you know about multi-headed self-attention is what you took in the Intro to Transformers class that came before this one, and you're feeling a little foggy about it. So if you wanted some clarifying information, you would head to Ask the AI Learning Assistant at the top of the screen here, and we will just paste in the following question. In this video, we mentioned that multi-headed self-attention is why GPUs can help train transformer models so efficiently. Can you expand on why? What about these architectures makes them work well with GPUs and their abilities? I just learned what self-attention is in my Transformers course, so I'm still very much a newcomer to the subject. Explain it like I only started to learning to code a couple of weeks ago. Use metaphors and simple examples. And let's see how the model behaves. As you can see, it gets right to work and starts spitting things out. And it says, imagine a classroom where each student, that is a word in a sentence, needs to pay attention to every other student to understand the lesson. This is like self-attention, where each word in a sentence looks at every other word to understand the meaning. And indeed, that is exactly what's going on in self-attention. So now think of a teacher, that is the GPU, who handles multiple students at once. That is multiple attention heads in a multi-headed self-attention mechanism. I won't read the rest of the example, but this is an evocative, helpful illustration that should be able to fill in any gaps in your knowledge when you're working with more advanced material. So that's one example of a cool thing that this AI assistant can do when you're inside of a course. Now let's move on to everybody's favorite subject, math. That's sarcastic because I was a newcomer to math when I taught myself to code as well, and had to work really hard to get a grip on it as I learned machine learning. So you're not alone if you feel that way. So in our course on fine-tuning transformers, we use a consumer-friendly, low-resource intensive technique called low-rank adaptation to fine-tune our models. And this requires some basic understanding of linear algebra, which is the word used to describe linear combinations of these big sets of numbers in these brackets here. And you may be totally new to this subject and not know how it works or what to do about it. So we're going to show you a few examples of how you can interact with a math-heavy course like this one. So let's say we set up our code cell. And this is just our example of the first thing we're doing. What we're doing is we're using NumPy to find the rank of each of these three matrices. We do the first one for you, and then in the first checkpoint, you have two additional matrices that you need to find the rank of. And let's say you are working on a solution to this problem, and you're coming up to a dead end. So I will paste in the code that we may have been trying to make work here. And I will execute this code. And oh no, we have an error. Module NumPy has no attribute matrix rank. Um, so let's say you're scratching your head at this. You don't know what's going on. You're about to give up. Um, but thankfully, you have an AI learning assistant to show you what to do, right? So I'm going to take this code sample and I'm going to paste in the following prompt. The code below is not passing the tests for the first exercise. What's going wrong? And then here's my code example, and I will enter it. And once again, the language model gets to work. It says the issue is with the use of np.matrixrank. The correct function to use is np.linalg.matrixrank, which means we needed to use the linear algebra module. And if you look at this first setup cell, clearly that was the mistake we made, so it discovered the correct thing that we did wrong. But notice that I did not need to paste in any working code example or give it any additional context. It knew what we were doing already, right? And that's because we provide this context to the AI learning assistant. So now, if I were to copy and paste this back in, I would get a working cell and pass this first checkpoint. I will spare you from watching that though, and instead we'll show you an additional thing that the AI learning assistant can do when it comes to math, which is render LaTeX. So if you don't know, LaTeX is almost like you could consider it a programming language for math. It's a way of formatting math equations very beautifully. So check this out. I'm going to say, can you show me the equation for an m by n matrix decomposing to an m by r and r by n? This is indeed the second topic we cover in this exercise. Use LaTeX. Also show me an example of a small matrix written in LaTeX. And as you can see, it'll give you a nicely formatted matrix here, as well as a decomposed matrix equation here at the top there. So many modalities that it can work in. It can talk fluently about math as well as coding. And then in the very in the climax of this course here, this is basically what we do. This is just to show you this is a rather advanced course. It's pretty packed full of content. It can be challenging to get through. But we perform three different fine tunes on the BERT transformer model using the IMDb sentiment classification dataset. So first we perform a full fine tune, which modifies all the parameters of this machine learning model. Then we perform low rank adaptation, which is basically creating a smaller adapter that we fit on top of BERT. We also cover quantizing models. So we quantize BERT and then perform the same LoRa operation, which is commonly called QLoRa. Lots of stuff, right? If you're not familiar with this subject, that may seem like it's overwhelming. But as we'll see, there are plenty of ways to use this AI learning assistant to kind of step through these problems and not only address the sticking points or the errors that you find, but elaborating on answers that you may have already discovered, which is another very cool use case for this application. So let's say we are working through our GPU unit, and here we've gone from the conceptual coverage of the GPU over to our hands-on practice, which is using the library PyTorch to interact with the GPU that we give you all access to in this workspace, which is a Tesla T4. And to do that, you use the CUDA library, which is a way that the computer can interact with and sort of program the behavior of a GPU. And again, if all of that just whoosh going way over your head, don't worry about it. Just know that this is a challenging subject that might, without an AI learning assistant, prove frustrating to people. So let's say you have set up this cell and you're working on this first checkpoint, and you managed to get it right. So in this first code cell, basically what we're doing is using a couple different PyTorch methods to find out more information about the GPUs that we have access to. So as I just mentioned, CUDA is available. We're interacting with the GPU. We have one CUDA device in our Codecademy workspaces, which is this Tesla T4 GPU. So let's say I have my curiosity piqued by all this, and I want to know what's going on now. So I can use a prompt that instead of seeking to kind of clear up an error or, remind me of something that I forgot, I can also ask for an elaboration or additional information about this subject. So this is a cool way to kind of push yourself, especially if you're hungry for more information and feeling passionate about the material. So I will paste in this prompt now. In addition to the methods used to reveal information about CUDA-capable machines below, show me some more ways we could learn about said devices using this library. And I just provide a brief code sample of the cell we just filled out so that it knows for sure what I'm talking about. And when I share this with the AI Learning Assistant, it gives me a few different methods I could try out in this cell. So instead of only the three methods that we've covered, it can find the index of the current CUDA device. It can find the total memory of the device under operation. And it can provide us some more details about the CUDA capabilities. And because you're in a live coding workspace, you could try those methods out and see what they did. So it gives you a chance to kind of explore around in the sandbox with someone sort of guiding your development who understands the subject as well. So that's just a very brief, quick tour of the kind of things you can do with the AI assistant in these courses. To summarize, we covered looking at the conceptual kind of video content that we do. We covered some math examples, both coding and writing LaTeX, as well as more hands-on coding with deep learning libraries such as PyTorch. And yeah, even advanced content can be tackled with the AI Learning Assistant. It can also do a great job at beginner kind of learning to code, taking your first steps. And it's kind of just like having a smart, friendly tutor work through your exercises with you. And like I said, earlier, it spares you the trouble of kind of tabbing back and forth and copy and pasting in ChatGPT or anything, and provides context about what you're already doing. So it's just one way that we want to help make your learning experience more comfortable, and sort of custom fitted and fine-tuned to your own experience. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this tool, or this fine-tuning transforming course, or any of Codecademy's AI offerings, which I've often been involved with at the end of this presentation. So feel free to ask me anything you want after we conclude the presentation. So thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you so much, Joe. We are going to kick it off to Kat. And as Joe mentioned, we are answering any of your questions that you have about anything that Joe and Kat will be sharing using the Q&A feature on this webinar. So if you have any questions, put it in that Q&A section, and then we'll answer all your questions at the end. Kat, we'll pass it over to you.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Kat Miner. I'm a product designer here at Codecademy. I need to allow something so I can screen share later. If you are looking to be a full stack programmer or just work with code in general, you might eventually get to work with a product designer. People like me essentially design the screens that engineers do eventually make the front end for. So I'm going to walk through the AI assistant from a product design perspective today. I've worked on a lot of things with the AI assistant. I've worked on things like the AI code review, which is available right now in our Python courses, as well as things like post-quiz review, which gives you an AI explanations of your answers to help you understand why you got a certain answer wrong when you believe that you should have gotten it correct. And that's to help our learners further their understanding of core concepts to help them succeed. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples of what the AI assistant can do in courses and articles, in lessons, and in projects, so that everybody can get understanding of what are the core things that the AI assistant can do. And I'm going to start us off with lessons. Can everybody see this? All right, great. So right here is a lesson regarding calling a function. And for this one specifically, you might notice if you're familiar with this language that when I run this, we get an error. The AI assistant is really useful in terms of asking questions about errors. So if I press explain error, you'll notice that right here, it sets up the error so that it is right above, and then it gives the context regarding the error. So then the AI can give us an understanding of what is actually going wrong. In this instance, we forgot some parenthesis here. And then if we run it again, it still says that we have an error. We can then again use the Ask AI. Oh, excuse me, give me a second. I need to actually, oh, there we go. You can say, ask the AI assistant again, And then it will give you more context regarding why your code is failing or not failing, about why it's not going exactly as we want. In this instance, you'll notice that we have a copy button right here. That's to allow us to copy and paste easily. This feature was built with learners in mind so that they can easily copy and paste what is actually within the code itself. So here I can say thanks again, and I can complete the exercise. Moving on to projects. We have this project right here, which is all about conditionals. Now, if I'm fresh out of, this is in C++, and so if I haven't done C++ in a while, I might not understand how to do conditionals, or I might have forgotten how to first start off the program. What the AI assistant is also good at doing here is asking it questions about how do I begin? This is actually one of the main questions that learners first ask when they first use the AI assistant is how do I begin? Because the AI assistant is able to meet you where you're at, this feature down here gives you a couple of prompts that you can ask the AI assistant if you're not exactly sure what to ask. So for us, we might want to ask, how do I use conditionals? And then because it already has the context that we're in the C++ course, we don't need to give it any other context other than how do I use conditionals for it to understand I'm looking for a conditional, here's how I can do it. We can even give it something simpler, like just asking conditionals. And it will again give us that same, here's how you do a conditional. And so it makes it incredibly easy for learners to understand, okay, this is how I can do conditionals and make sure that they're able to execute that in the future. For this specific project, because it is all about conditionals, I could ask it other questions like, can I nest conditionals within conditionals? And this can help me understand further my learning. For the AI assistant specifically, you don't need to give it context about what language you're in, what you're trying to do within the code. It's able to pick it up contextually because we pass that to the AI processor so that it can, in turn, give you back information that is useful for you. This helps us meet learners where they're at and helps us to progress them further. Lastly, we have this article right here. For me, lambdas were one of the most complex topics for me to learn. I don't know much about coding, but I did want to learn it to make myself a better product designer to further understand what actually happens within the code. And so for me, lambdas were kind of complex to understand. Because I might not understand lambdas, I could ask it a question like, can you explain lambdas to me like I'm 5? And it will give us back a response that might give us a example that's more suited for somebody who's a beginner. In this instance, it actually took explain it like I'm 5 a little bit further by saying like a magic box, which is something that you might talk to with somebody who's like younger. If I wanted to ask it a question that's more age appropriate, I might say something like, can you explain this concept to me in more simple terms? You can also ask it more individualized questions regarding the specific features. So for example, map, filter, and sorted, those are all examples of a certain function type, but I don't remember what those are. So I might ask it, are examples of what? What are these actual things? And it'll answer that they're higher order functions. If I had further questions about higher order functions, because at this point I'm learning about these functions that are really powerful and help me do more, I can ask it, what are other examples of higher order functions? Codecademy also has other AI features that can help you further your learning. For example, AI project review is really helpful after you've completed a project to understand how can I do better? How can I make my code more readable? It can help you build projects that will make you into a better developer. But yeah, I think we're about ready for questions. Thank you guys for listening, and that's what I got.
Thank you so much, Kat. We have some questions that are coming in, but we have a good amount of time. So if you have more questions, feel free to put it in the chat. It doesn't have to be just questions related to the content that was shared today, but as Joe and Kat mentioned, they also have a lot of experience in their careers. So if you have any questions about how they got to where they got, what they had to do, I know a lot of people in our community are also looking for that next step in their career. So feel free to use this time to ask any of those questions as well. To kick us off, Joe and Kat, I'm going to ask you both a question, and whoever wants to take it first, feel free. The first question is, how is AI changing the product design business?
I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on with AI and UI. For example, there's this one product called UI Wizard. They combine those words, but I can't actually say that word. But it's really interesting how it's able to create flows. I think there's a lot of interesting opportunities in UI for AI intervene. For example, when I'm creating user flows so that I can understand what's the easiest path for users to go on. Usually that involves a lot of iteration and a lot of sketching and a lot of like pointing arrows to different sketch screens. I'd be interested to understand an AI's take on it just because they are able to bring in a lot of information. And when you're designing a user flow, you want for users to be able to understand what's happening in that flow instantly without much thought. And so, because AI can gather so much information and understand where those points are, where people are typically interacting with those pieces of UI, I'd be interested to see what it can create. And I think that is where AI is going to revolutionize the UI industry. And I'm interested to see how it can help further the flows that we're able to create. I think there's a lot of basic flows like onboarding, checkout that are the same across every single application. And by making sure that those flows are more taken care of, we can tackle more complex flows and make a better experience for users.
Thanks, Kat. The next question we have is, how can beginner programmers take full advantage of AI-powered learning tools without becoming too reliant on them?
I think that's a great question. So thanks for asking it. I think it was Joanne. So this is a question that I think a lot of people grapple with is how do you make yourself a stronger programmer instead of outsourcing your own strength to this machine, right? So there are a few good ways to do that that I have found in my own practice. One, I think, is to like double check yourself. So you can use these chatbots to kind of engage in what you might call a Socratic dialogue. That is, you can tell the chatbot in your prompt to ask me leading questions that test my understanding, force me to kind of think through the steps involved in the thing I'm trying to learn on my own, and you guide me there. And that can be a really efficient way to learn things quickly. I often do that when I'm working through a new machine learning paper, for instance, where the chatbot will understand it immediately, but I will say, make sure you ask me questions that are at my existing level of familiarity with whatever we're discussing, that lead me towards kind of the final understanding that's in the resource. The other thing I would recommend is using it to develop additional practice questions. So you can use these LLMs to kind of spin off. So if you accomplished a certain exercise, but you want to really make sure that you've got it down pat, you can tell the language model, design a few additional questions for me or test my knowledge. And oftentimes they're surprisingly capable of that as well. So yeah, I'd recommend both those things. When you're actually working on your own projects, which is a great way to finalize your understanding of things. Also, just always make sure that you read the code that it generates and can narrate to yourself how it's working. That's kind of a prerequisite for everything as well.
And is this AI assistant able to generate small data sets? That was one of the questions. Whoever asked that, if you want to elaborate a little bit more so we can get you your right answer. Until then, we'll move on to the next question. The next question is, how do you balance multiple interests? For example, data science, front-end engineer, AI engineer in your next career?
I can take a brief swing at this, Cat, and then if you want to take it as well. Um, First place my mind went when I saw this question was when I was working towards getting a career in tech. The way that I oriented myself was to always build projects that I thought were cool, that I could show off in a portfolio. Very common strategy. So in today's landscape, I think you need to understand how to work AI. The more machine learning literate you are, the better. And front end is kind of the language of communication over the internet, and many people need to understand it if they want a career in tech at all. So I think when you work on projects that you will be putting into your own portfolio to share with potential employers, select ambitious projects that sample from each of those domains. So one thing about AI assisted coding is it can dramatically increase the ceiling of what an individual developer, even a beginner developer, is capable of, and can also help you learn those subjects as you develop them. So I would challenge you to think of a project that you think would be cool. Have it involve elements of data science or data analysis or wrangling large sets of data in databases. Have it involve elements of front-end engineering, maybe have it incorporate a language model API, but just kind of shoot for the stars with it and try and hit as many different domains as you can, and then weave them all together into a single impressive product.
Yeah, I agree with everything Joe has said. Christine, or not Christine, Stephanie, can you remind me of the question?
Yes. Let me just find it real fast. How can you balance multiple interests? So data science, front-end engineer, AI engineer in your next career.
Yeah, I think that being able to expand yourself into all of those fields is a really great idea and helps you to stand out as a candidate. In terms of balancing all of those interests, I think Joe was spot on about just building projects and making something. Um, I am also somebody that I put all of my projects into a portfolio. That is definitely a strategy. I think it's also important to consider when you actually put those into a portfolio, how you make those appealing and how those come across to a potential employer. Oftentimes, people that look through your portfolio are only going to take a couple of minutes. They're not going to read through all of the description text, no matter how wonderfully crafted that they are. And so, just considering like, what quotes should I put really big? What text should I make big so that people actually read it and understand what the project is? Um, I think expanding yourself is a really great strategy, um, but just make sure that you're building.
Thank you both. How would you ask the AI learning assistant about a project review?
I can actually demo that real quick.
Amazing.
I will share my screen again. So as of right now, AI project review, and it will expand to different courses. As of right now, this is only available in the Python course. So this is one of the first projects in that course. This is block letters. In this project, like it's asking you to print block letters into the console. And once that you have completed all your tasks, at least run this once, you can scroll down, you can see code review in the narrative pane right here. And you can request your code review, and it'll take a couple seconds to generate. Typically, this isn't a super long process, but after it does generate, it'll give you a couple key ideas about how you can improve. And it might be something along the lines of, oh, this could be better said in this way. You could reframe this in this way. But it tries to look at three different categories. I believe it's something like readability, objective. There they are. Um, so it's purpose, readability, and then your performance. So it'll tell you how you can make your code perform better. So in terms of actually executing this code, this would make it run faster. In terms of the readability, it's telling me to add comments. Typically, that is what's in the readability section is to add comments, and then but there are other also helpful things in there as well. And then for things like purpose, it's just making sure that you address the actual prompt of the um, project. Now, we're hopefully going to expand this in the future to different projects. That is something that we want to work towards. But right now, if you are a Python learner, congratulations. If you have access to projects, you also have access to project review.
Thanks so much, Kat. Um, Thank you for that question. Our next question is from Karen. Traditional UX process involves gathering user feedback survey. How do product designers today gather that feedback quickly with and without AI if you're in a research and development environment?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that. So my process here is definitely different than what I was taught when I was learning how to be a designer when I was in university. How I have learned to do design here is very data focused. We have a lot of metrics that we look at within the Codecademy app to understand what are users using, how are they using it, and that helps to inform design decisions regarding where we should place certain features, the flows for certain features, what makes sense, like what could be the easiest path. And that qualitative feedback from users typically comes after we have designed a flow. So if I'm making something, for example, like the AI project review, I might make the flow for that project. Should it be one big page? Should it be in the panel? Like where should we put it? That might be a question that I look at from the data research that we do regarding where we should place it. But in terms of like qualitative feedback regarding like how do people actually feel when they use it, that's when we typically do user testing to get a better understanding of how do people feel while they're using it. A lot of the user testing we do here is either moderated or unmoderated. The unmoderated tests that I've taken part in here have been asking questions like, were you confused at all during a portion of this? Asking specific questions about where they might find something to understand if they can find it quickly and easily. And from that user research, we use that to understand like if our design guesses, if our design decisions were correct, and then improve the product from there. And then after that, we go to release. So a simplified timeline might be I look into the numbers that we currently have on the Codecademy site to understand where a specific product idea should go. We start to build that out with the help of product, with the help of engineering. And then we do further user research once those are in a better place to understand if we were actually successful in getting the result that we want. And then if we were, we make the improvements that we need to, and then we release it. That is how we do it here. How I think AI might change that is, I think research with AI is in kind of a strange place right now. I forget what the actual application is called, but there is something from DeepSeek that comes up with research for you. I think it's Perplexity that comes up with research for you. That was something that I looked into in terms of doing like user research for a certain flow that I was working on. And at first, it came up with really great results regarding like numbers. I was like, wow, how did it get these numbers? But then upon further inspection, it gave me its sources. It seemed like those were not real actual results. I'm really excited for AI to get to a place where it can gather so much user research and give me those numbers that I need from across the web instantly. Like I am incredibly interested in that. But I'm not sure it's at the place where it needs to be right now to give reliable, accurate numbers for that. But once it is, I think it'll be an amazing thing for user researchers and people who create UI to make good design decisions.
Thanks, Kat. And we have two questions on just kind of the future of what this AI assistant is going to look like. The first question is, will you ever integrate a voice command on the AI model for people with disabilities? And the second one is, does the Codecademy AI have memory to recall our previous issues and perhaps identify learning styles, barriers, etc.? If not, is it something you might introduce?
I can take a stab at those, and then Joe, if you have additional feedback, that'd be great. So in terms of the voice accessibility, allowing voice on our AI models, it actually is a really great idea. I'll see if I can put a message out, see if we have interest in doing that, but that sounds like a really great idea. Secondly, the question regarding if it remembers your chat. Unless you delete your chat, it does keep your history, specifically within that course. So if I'm taking two courses, for example, Python and C++, all of the memory for the Python course is within the Python course's AI. So if you come back 5 weeks later, it will remember what you were talking about. But the C++ course does not know what you're talking about within the Python course.
Yep, that pretty much just confirms my knowledge of the tool. Yeah, both excellent feature recommendations though, for sure.
Thanks. Connor asks, I feel like the market has been oversaturated with AI topics and bots. Is there a way to tell a good, productive AI from a less effective slash efficient one?
Happy to take that question. Yeah. Yes, I fully agree. I think most people working in AI or adjacent to AI can relate to your question there. It can be not only overwhelming, but kind of a headache to deal with the gold rush that has been going on since the release of ChatGPT. So a few things to touch on, I guess. One is that I think the trend that we've seen is that when chatbots are kind of embedded inside of existing applications that provide sort of obvious use to you, such as our chatbot that's embedded inside of the learning platform, then you can see, you're interacting with GPT-4. We provide a wrapper to make your life easier and give it context so that you can learn faster and more efficiently, right? So that's pretty straightforward value proposition. Other sort of AI wrappers that are not connected to existing products that you're using, I understand. I think the burden of proof on those is a little bit higher. Like, what role are they going to play in your life? A lot of time, they are rather thin wrappers around language model APIs. And I think most of the time what we've seen is that the truly innovative projects, weirdly enough, are happening inside of the AI labs themselves. So Claude projects, Claude artifacts, OpenAI's deep research tool. These are software products built on top of the AI layer, but they're made by the AI labs themselves. So they kind of are one step ahead of everyone else in terms of developing really awesome products. So I'd recommend kind of keeping an eye on what they're doing. And then if something's truly impressive from a third party that's not connected to stuff you're using day to day, be maybe a little bit more skeptical, or just kind of look at those second. But the AI labs are really generating, I think, the newest, most innovative things. So keep an eye there.
Thanks, Joe. Another question we have from the audience is, what is a good course to take in Codecademy to start learning about AI ML engineering?
Yeah, I can take that one too. This subject is kind of odd. Like much in machine learning, the terminology has not really been standardized in a way, so sometimes the words can mean different things. Usually, the way I think about this is there's sort of analogous to back end and front end in software development. So hopefully, most of you are familiar with those terms. Back end refers to the things the user does not see. Front end refers to what the user does see. So in AI or machine learning, there's kind of a similar split in a way. You can try thinking of it this way, where machine learning engineering is like the training of models, the fine tuning of models, like we saw in my demo, the more hands-on sort of code that is wrangling these actual machine learning models to behave in different ways. And then there's something analogous to the front end, which is commonly called AI engineering, which is building software products using language model APIs, using existing machine learning models to develop things. So Codecademy offers courses on both subjects. We have a big, rich catalog of machine learning subjects on the quote unquote backend that can walk you through learning Python, learning data science, learning classical machine learning, learning deep learning, and then all the way up to what we're doing now. AI engineering as a newer field is something that we're developing, courses for more recently. That's where I spend most of my time developing content. I would recommend starting, if you haven't taken some of the prompt engineering classes or courses that we have, those are good ways to kind of get your momentum started. They're pretty simple. And then moving on to our course on interacting with the OpenAI API, learning how to make API calls to the getting completions back and sending prompts off and so on via code. And then to follow that up, I'd recommend a course that I made called Intro to RAG. RAG is short for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's very commonly the first AI app that someone will make. It's where you embed chunks of text that can be dynamically retrieved by a language model to answer questions. So that's a good place to start. And we should have Intro to Agents, which is a course I'm also working on, released within the next month and a half or so, knock on wood. So keep an eye on that too.
I'm
Thank-
excited for your new course, Joe. Something that I wanted to add real quick is that we also have, I feel like it's fitting because it is also the AI assistant within the catalog itself. So to get there, you would go to the Codecademy navbar and you would go to the catalog and you press Explore All, which is just right here. That brings you to here, and you can use this Explore the Catalog AI assistant to ask it questions regarding the courses that we do have, and this should help you to tailor your experience to understand which courses that might be applicable to you.
Thank you. We are going to ask a few more questions and then wrap up, but someone had a follow-up question to their current question on code project review. I know it's only in the Python course right now. Could we ask the Learning AI assistant to do a code review of our code based on purpose, readability, and performance?
I don't see why not. I think that it would be able to give you some answers. I don't know if it would be as tailored as the AI project review feature, but I do think that that would give you some good feedback on your code. I think feedback is one of the greatest ways to get better at what you're doing. So that sounds like a really great way to improve your code.
Thanks, Kat. And then we're going to wrap up with these two questions that are more catered towards career path and having a job after the work that you're doing here on Codecademy. So the first question is, I'm an experienced software engineer, but I've worked more on the testing and automation, but not aggressive development. I'm an AI ML and also full stack. These days, I found agents are the ones we need in the industry. So which career path should I select on Codecademy? And then the next question is, what are some recommended steps to take after completing Codecademy's full stack engineer path in order to get a job offer, and what are some expectations? So if you want to just speak generally to maybe just the courses and kind of next steps for those who want to start or take their career to the next level.
So I can just share a few off the cuff remarks first, Kat. So what I mentioned earlier, just to underline one more time, the recommended path I would have for AI engineering, that is, consuming language model APIs to develop AI products. I'd recommend starting with some of our prompt engineering content. If you're comfortable there, you could skip that and begin with the OpenAI API courses. I think we have courses also available on the Gemini API and the Claude API via Skillsoft. And then I would move on to Intro to Retrieval Augmented Generation, RAG, which I developed in partnership with ChromaDB, which is a very popular vector database. And that walks you through developing some pretty cool projects. You can, chat with documents and so on. And then keep your eyes peeled in about a month and a half for the release of Intro to Agents, which will be a multi-course track that will walk you all the way up to multi-agent systems and really productionizing AI agent applications. So that would be my contribution to that question.
That sounds really wonderful. In terms of, I can't necessarily answer the first question, but that second one I will take a stab at. In terms of what you should do after you've completed a course, Codecademy actually offers an array of different resources that you can utilize. So give it a sec to load up for me. But in this resources panel at the top, there will be things like the AI interview simulator. There it goes. The AI interview simulator, which should be the job readiness checker right here is one of the things that you can utilize to see if it will load. There it goes. The job readiness checker you can utilize to essentially copy and paste a job that you're interested in. At that point, it'll ask you to enter in your experience. You can see that I've entered A here, even though that's not my experience because I was testing this feature. But essentially, it'll tell you whether or not you are ready for that job and what steps that you can take. There's also another one, which I actually don't see here. It's called it should be in the Career Center actually, but it's called not the job, right? The AI interview simulator. Give me a sec. See if I can find it. There it is, the interview simulator. And this will essentially help you build a interview. So if you want to be a front-end engineer, you click that. You want entry level, click that. Right now we have two kinds of screenings, the phone screening and the behavioral interview. And then you can say what kind of company it is, and then you can enter all of your experience, and you can save it, and then it will start your interview, at which point it will start asking you questions. I'll give it a second to load just so you can get a preview. So it'll ask me questions like, can you tell me about a time you collaborate on a project with a team and how you contributed to the team's success? You can either type those or you can speak them, but both of those should help you get a understanding of what you need to improve on, because after this, it will give you a list of things that you could improve on within your answers. And that'll help you to improve your portfolio, improve your resume, all of that stuff. But if I could give a brief overview of what you should do after you complete a course, you can start job searching, you can start building your portfolio, you can start applying, and using those tools, those should help you to progress your search.
Awesome. Joe and Kat, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and just sharing just what you've been working on so hard behind the scenes to our community today. And thank you to everyone here for being here and asking such great questions and taking part in Operation Codebreaker. If you're here to look for the letter, I hope it's very obvious where it's at. But I did want to mention that a lot of people ask where you can find a recording of this event. It'll be posted on our Codecademy's YouTube channel, which is in the link. It'll be up there either today or tomorrow. And then we also have one last event for Operation Codebreaker happening this Thursday. And I put that link in the chat. And Melanie from our team will be going over Codecademy's interview simulator. So if you have any questions about that, want to have more knowledge and content around how to just to progress in finding that next job through your skills in interviewing, this will be a great event for you to attend. But other than that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you again, Joe and Kat, and we hope to see you again at the next one. Take care, everybody.